Mandy makes cakes!
Hi everybody, my name is Mandy. I make cakes and cupcakes and a lot of other stuff too, but mostly cakes. What I really love to do is create a recipe for whatever wacky flavor someone comes up with. I always try to make everything from scratch, from the batter to the frostings. Whether it's vampire, or butterbeer, or even cotton candy. But today I'm going to keep things a little bit more basic. Today we're going to be making carrot cake with cream cheese frosting, obviously. Is there even another way to do it? No, there really isn't. Let's take a look at our ingredients. Here I have everything I'm going to use to make this carrot cake gathered together. I've also got some recipes here that incorporate some of the elements I'm looking to have in my cake that I'm going to use as a reference for my own recipe. When you make cakes as often as I do, you start to have a pretty good idea of what you're going to do with or without a recipe, and can usually come up with your own, but I still like to have some references. Honestly, don't do what I do. Your kitchen will be a mess. First, I'm going to put my carrots through a food processor until they are finely grated into little pieces. Normally I'd get full-size non-baby carrots and grate them by hand, but this method is honestly faster and I didn't have any full-size carrots on hand. Next, I'm going to do the same with my walnuts. When they are grated down, I will combine the walnuts and the carrots together in a large mixing bowl. After those are combined, I'm also going to measure out my coconut, and then combine all three of those ingredients together. Now I'm going to start on my wet ingredients for the cake batter. I'll be using unsweetened applesauce, eggs, and sugar, and I will blend them together in a different large mixing bowl. While that's mixing, I'll assemble my dry ingredients in a smaller bowl. That includes my flour, baking powder, baking soda, salt, and my selected spices. I kind of want to assure you guys that this bowl may look small, but it's actually just tall and skinny and goes quite deep. So there's more in there than it looks like. As soon as I feel those dry ingredients are well combined, I'm going to start gradually blending them into my wet mixture until everything is completely mixed together. This step typically takes a while, in case you couldn't tell. Now there's one more ingredient I need to add to my carrot mixture before it can go into the cake batter, and that's the crushed pineapple. Yum! When all of that is mixed together, it's time to add it to the batter. Let's do this. Just like before, you want to gradually add the carrot mixture into the batter, slowly blending it together over time until everything is combined. Now it's ready to bake. Once the cake is finished baking, I set it aside for a few hours to cool off. Aw man, it looks so good! I love it! But now is not the time to dwell on how beautiful this cake is. Instead, it's time to start looking at making the frosting. Yeah! The first thing I always do when I make cream cheese frosting is beat the cream cheese to death. Looks pretty dead to me. Now we have to beat the butter into the cream cheese and blend them together. After those are blended, I'm going to add vanilla extract and then start gradually adding powdered sugar and some milk. In my experience, frostings really tend to be to taste. So if you're making this for someone who doesn't really care for very sweet, sugary frosting, you can always add whipped topping instead, which will add some substance to it, and you don't have to use as much powdered sugar. Basically, you're going to want to just keep blending those ingredients until you get the consistency and flavor you want to have for your frosting. Once I have the color, texture, and flavor that I'm looking for, I put my frosting aside and get ready to frost my cake. Here I have the tools I'm going to be using to frost this cake. I've got a spatula, I've got what I believe is called a palette knife, and a plastic Ziploc bag. I'm going to use the spatula to put the frosting into the Ziploc bag. After I've got it full enough to the level I can handle, I will make sure the Ziploc bag is sealed tightly, and I will take a pair of scissors and snip off a corner of the bag. And that's how you get a piping bag without buying the expensive ones at the craft store. Hooray! Now, as you can imagine, it's pretty hard to record with one hand and frost a cake when you really need two hands to frost a cake. So don't worry so much about this not looking very pretty, because it's not going to, because I'm using one hand to do this. Plus, it doesn't need to be very pretty because it's all going to get blended together anyway. So don't worry about it. Making it pretty is what the palette knife is for. After I pipe on some frosting, I use the palette knife to spread it around and try to spread it as evenly on the top part of the cake and the sides as I can. Usually you have to add more throughout this process and just, try to get every nook and cranny you can covered with frosting. When I'm satisfied with the bottom layer, I will add the next layer of the cake to the top and repeat the process. For fine details with piping frosting, I like to use little sandwich bags instead of the big ones, just because they make it easier to control the frosting and how it falls on the cake. We're almost finished! The last thing I'm going to add is just a little sprinkle of shredded coconut on the top. And we're all done! Hooray! I'm pretty happy with how this cake turned out. I like the subtle spiral effect on the top and the details around the outside. It definitely looks quite pretty, but it is important that it tastes good too. So let's find out how it tastes. Ooh, I like that color. Maybe we should get a closer look. But not before I taste this. Yeah, that's good. Oh, that's good. This cake is quite dense, but it's also incredibly moist and not too sweet. Honestly, the frosting is probably the sweetest part about it. It's also got a really nice texture, and paired with the cream cheese frosting, it really kind of melts in my mouth. I'm very happy with this. What I like aesthetically about a carrot cake is when, just by looking at the cake, you can see all the ingredients that were put into it, like the carrot and the pineapple and the coconut and the walnuts. You can see them clearly on the surface and the texture. It's just very pleasing to look at, and honestly kind of mouth-watering. Thank you so much for watching my video. Please like and subscribe for more cake videos coming soon. Until next time, keep being sweet.